No.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Zero Interest. This time we're looking at Death Parade, Episode 3, Rolling Ballad. Take it away, Casey.
Ballad. They put an E on the end, so you got a ballad.
I'm not going to.
You're no fun.
That is my decision.
So, once again, we have people arriving in Quindecum, right?
Mm-hmm.
In comparatively unconventional means. Like in the previous one, they both showed up on the lifts, but in this one, college boy here is just kind of passed out on a couch.
Yeah. The means by which they arrive there is, like, very slightly. So. But usually they arrive there.
Usually when you have a sentence like that, you want to add a because and then a reason to the end of it. Is there one of those?
For this, it's more like, I'm trying to think if there's an actual reason why he's not in the lift, because usually it starts with the lift and then they see each other. But sometimes somebody gets there first, sometimes somebody gets there second, because the timing of when they die is... I think it's because there's probably a bit of a leeway of died at the same time or near the same time. I'm not quite sure, to be honest.
In this case, they died at the same time. They got hit by a bus.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone who's watching this review has already seen it. Or should have. Don't be a dumbass. So, yeah. Deckham wakes up this dude. And he's like, oh, what the fuck is going on? And there's another girl there who is standard Japanese moe waifu bait kind of thing at the first appearance. So they are both at the bar with a seat separating them. They, as far as they're aware, do not know each other. What's his name? College boy knows he was going home from college, and that's all he remembers.
Miura Shigeru.
Don't care. Is not important at all. That's the fun thing about these one-off characters. You don't actually usually have to know their names. I only remember one of them, and that's because it was plot relevant. And Girl doesn't remember anything, including her name, and she's kind of freaked out about it. But Deckham explains what the place is. Well, he explains what's going to happen now.
With the help of his assistant of one.
Yeah, that's
two.
She really contributes to that whole conversation. But yeah, and he really appreciates her help apparently, so that's fun. So he does the whole spiel of, yeah, you're going to play a game, and it's going to be chosen by roulette, and you can't leave until you play. So they try and leave, because, of course. And this is where Gilligan reveals she can't remember anything.
Mm-hmm.
And the dude is super nice about it, and trying to be helpful. And she's like, if I play this game, maybe I'll remember something. He's like, all right, let's play the game. Like, you probably can't play alone, so all right, I'll do it. I'm down. So they hit the button, and it's bowling. I assume that says bowling on the thing.
Yeah, it's bowling.
Yep, and the wall basically explodes, appearance-wise at least. There's a lot of smoke. And behind it is a bowling lane, a single bowling lane.
Mm-hmm.
And the rules are thus. You bowl a single ball per frame. And that's more or less it. It's just that as bowling, only you only bowl a single ball. That's it. And they have to use specific bowling balls that are connected to each other's hearts. which
Yeah.
doesn't really play into this at all.
It is. You feel the pulsing of the heart as well as the body temperature, and it's kind of gross, but like this is not a scenario where I feel like they have to go to the extremes of causing like serious pain. But you can see that there's a lot of potential for it.
Is the roulette actually roulette, or is it just a pre-selected thing?
I don't know.
Okay. Because what this scenario is and what this scenario requires doesn't really matter if the whole thing is decided by roulette and this game's rules were already preset. Also, who's to say what the scenario requires? Because the entire point of this whole thing that they do is to discern people's true natures. And in the previous scenario, they seemed pretty gung ho about discerning their true natures through fear and distress and putting them through taxing situations. In this case, it's not really for some reason. Like if you swap them around and you put the other two in this one, probably wouldn't have played out the same, and they would have gotten very different results and understanding of the people involved.
I don't know. I don't think Decking himself picks the game, but it could be pre-chosen by somebody else. It's not entirely clear on how that works.
Okay. Yeah. So that's a little odd, but yeah. So they bowl, and bowling happens. And through the course of bowling, Girly Girl remembers something of, well, basically at various points, they both remember something of, like, hey, there was 3 kids that used to play together. One of them was the dude, one of them was the girl, but she seemed to have moved away. Yeah. So he was super sad about that, and then there's also a memory of the dude going to a specific bowling alley, taking his friends there, because there was a cute girl working there, and the cute girl was the girly girl. And the dude's friends tell him something, but it doesn't tell you what they tell him.
The dude, by the way, does say to the girl, if I win, I would like to take you on a date. Please go out with me sometime. To which Lisa is like, oh, they're dead. That's kind of sad.
Yeah. And also, at some point, they kind of figure out who each other are, or at least they think they do. And at this point, whatever her name is, we still don't know, is basically like, oh, that's sweet. I guess this one's going to turn out pretty good. And Deckham is like, I wouldn't be so sure, and then he tells her something in confidentiality, and she shouts in surprise about it when he told her not to, covers her mouth, and yeah. And then the match continues and finishes, and on the last frame, the dude is like, I want to do really well, so fuck it, and tries to bowl a strike. And as he throws the ball, he remembers, he remembers all the details, but we don't actually find out until the very end, which is... It does a good job of building like a sort of tension kind of thing. Not a lot of tension. I think the first episode set the bar for what people are expecting in this one. So there was a lot of tension for how bad this could go and what could possibly be the thing that they're not telling us. So he remembers something about what his friends told him, and he had a conversation with the girl right before the bus crashed into them, or the truck, or whatever it was. They were on a bus. My nose. And,
you okay?
Yeah, I'm fine. Allergies happens. So, yeah, he's kind of freaking out a little bit because he's figured out that they're already dead, and then she bowls and she figures it out too. And they're like, man, that whole date thing, it's, damn, I was really looking forward to it kind of thing. And, I'm going to call her the attendant for the sake of convenience. She needs a name or something.
Just call her the attendant.
Yeah, is like, we could probably set you up with that and let you have some time. And Deckham's like, yes, absolutely. You have 5 minutes.
Best 5-minute date ever.
And the attendant tries to fucking to be like, you asshole. And he's like, no, that was a joke. She says it's not funny, but it was pretty fucking funny. I'm not gonna lie. I mean, I'm British. Deadpan humor is absolutely my jam. So yeah, they have a nice date and such. And as they leave and go onto the lifts, it reveals what the big, terrible secret was, that my phone is ringing. It's terrible.
Nice ringtone.
It's actually not a ringtone, it's my alarm tone. I set an alarm for recording this. We started a little early. It reveals the terrible secret that she isn't who he thought she was, and that's...
She was the third friend.
Yeah, she was the friend that was still with him and didn't move away, and was like, don't worry, I'll always be with you, and then he continued to ignore her for the rest of her life.
So she went and she got some plastic surgery.
Trying to look like the girl that moved away.
So he wouldn't ignore her.
And that's what his friends told him at the bowling alley, that, hey, dumbass, that was your friend when you were kids? How did these guys know that? That was your friend when you were kids, and she totally had plastic surgery to look like your other friend. It's kind of messed up, and you're kind of a dickbag. Yeah. They know a surprising amount about the situation, which is a little weird, but okay, let's move the plot along. It's an anthology. We're not supposed to, like... convenient details. It's fine. So, yeah. They get into the lifts, and you see her face just sort of on this side, just sort of droop a little bit. Yeah. It's kind of sad.
Yeah.
But, the lifts are a problem. Because when you're trying to tell the audience something, you want it to be very, very clear. So, 2 people in the first episode came in on the lift, and they go to 2 different locations on exiting, and they get in 2 different lifts. So presumably, the 2 different lifts are going to 2 different places.
It's the masks that determine.
I know. I had to look at the comments. This is why I'm bringing this up. If you're going to tell the audience something, you have to make it very clear what you're trying to tell them and not leave it to a very, very tiny detail that maybe people will notice.
I mean, I noticed it on my first view round, so...
Yeah, but if you're just casually watching it, then what you're going to notice is I want to say it was the guy went into the lift that the girl went into last time, so one might assume that he's going to hell, or the void, whatever, and the girl went into the one that the guy went into last time, so she's going to heaven, or reincarnation, yada yada. That's what it makes it look like by doing that. If they were going to the same place, you should just have them go in the same lift. Just for the sake of visual convenience and just clearing that up with the audience.
It's a case of they're trying to do, show don't tell, but some telling would help.
No, show don't tell is fine, and they would be doing show don't tell just by having. God, my hair is getting worse when I do that. They would be showing and not telling by just having the lifts be consistent of where they actually go, so that there is a clear, logical thought pattern going through the episodes.
Yeah. Having both of them go in one lift would be.
It would work way better, but
yeah,
it's kind of a niggling detail, but I didn't get it until I read the comments, so it's kind of not just a niggling detail. I was very confused when the guy was going to hell because he didn't like a girl until she got plastic surgery. That seems a little harsh.
No. But yeah, I get where you're coming from. It's not something I missed on my first year around because, like, I felt like I was like, oh, the masks are different. And that's kind of when it clicked for me. But I do understand that it can be confusing because you don't really see.
If they have two lifts, then they go to two different places. That's kind of the implication from that. So that's why it's a little strange.
The rules just kind of change. There is a distinct, in certain regards, there's not a clear consistency. Because the actual consistency, I guess, is that whichever mask is on the lift is where it goes, rather than this lift goes here, this lift goes there, which is not inherently clear in the first episode. And so it kind of gets established here, but because it wasn't established at the start, it becomes unclear.
Yeah. That said, while it's not a small complaint, it is one of the very, very few complaints I have about this episode. That and the whole, hey, the bowling balls with the hearts in them don't really mean anything. That's all I had to say negative about this episode. And again, like I said in My Hero Academia this week, the amount of stuff I find to complain about in shit is a lot. Mm-hmm. So, that I have very little complaint about is a very good sign for the show. Again, 3-episode rule. This is where it should have gone after the first one.
Yes.
But yeah, this was very good. I like that they established, hey, we didn't just go from the first one to the second one. There was some in between, so it establishes that the attendant has a handle for how this whole thing goes and knows her role and has a role in what she actually has to do. So instead of focusing on her getting the hang of the job and everything, it's actually just let's focus on the stories. That's very appreciated because that's way more interesting.
The stories are the main focus. Whatever stuff is happening with the attendant and with Dekim, for the most part, that tends to be the background until eventually it will start to come more into the foreground. But the stories are the most important part here for right now. And I like this episode because it is such a tone shift from the first episode, where it's like not all these stories need to be this type of
not
shouting.
Everything's going to be misery. It's not going to be raw emotional roller coaster kind of situation. Sometimes it's just, oh, this is sad. Some people that had some kind of sad interactions in life, that's over now, and
they get some resolution.
Yeah, they get resolution to whatever that was, and then they move on to the next life. That's a nice, not upbeat, but comparatively light-hearted story, and it's good that it allows that to happen in a show like this.
Yes. Like I said, I said it for the last 2 episodes, this totally 3-episode rule for this show, because this episode I think it's really good, and I think it kind of works to more fully establish the tone of it's not just, oh, hey, death game of pain. It's also, there are stories that are going to be told.
Yeah, it's a this is your life kind of thing. It's not hey, everyone is misery and hardship and pain and suffering. It's some lives are like that, other ones aren't, and
Mm.
you know, it's not about specific things that people can go through. It's about just these are people.
Yes.
These are people. These are their stories, and that's that allows a lot more freedom in what kind of stories they want to tell, and that's a way better hook, in my opinion,
Mm-hmm.
than just everything's going to be misery. Because if everything's misery, you're going to get sick of fucking misery. Like, even aside from the fact that misery is misery, and you don't really want to feel that emotion, you have too much of the same thing, it's going to get stale. Whereas if you allow a nice change in tone from episode to episode, that can be much better.
Thinking back on it, I do get the feeling that these games are intentionally picked to match the people in a way.
Yeah, now that you mention it, yeah, these two were very seasoned bowling people. Now that you mention it, because he went to the bowling alley all the time and she worked at one.
Mm-hmm. And
Probably.
with darts, with the first one, it's just kind of two people picking away at each other, in a sense.
Mm.
And that kind of fits with that story.
Mm.
In a sense, like you could finagle that to work and make sense thematically.
I could see that. With basically what they ended up doing was finding the ways to hurt each other the most.
Yes. And so that's kind of why I think, looking through just in my mind all the games still yet to come, I think they are intentional. And there is no actual roulette. And that may have been explained in one of these episodes, but if it was, I don't remember.
So yeah, good episode. Really, really good episode. I keep coming to the side of the frame because that's my natural sitting position. Yeah, really good episode. Very little to complain about. I like the tone shift. I like that it's not spending far too long to explain how this shit works now. It's just getting the story out.
Yep.
Which is more important. I don't care over much about the mechanics beyond how they facilitate the story happening. So I'm glad they stopped wasting time on that other stuff. Just yeah.
And any closing thoughts, or is
those pretty much were my closing thoughts?
Yeah.
My dude.
Any other closing thoughts? Was I was gonna. Well, this is me just floundering now. So I like this show because I think this episode is what kind of really, when I was originally watching this is the kind of episode that really kind of sold me on, like, okay, yeah, it doesn't have to be misery. That's good. And next episode is going to be called Death Arcade. And boy, I like arcade games. Don't you?
Is there going to be one of these that's literally just called Death Parade, and the game is they have to participate in a parade? Because I'm noticing a pattern in the naming from this point.
Well, there was a break with this.
They went very far to put an E on the end of ballad.
There's Death March.
That sounds close enough. When I was a young
boy, my father took me into the city to see the marching band.
Copyright strike. All right, so you want to close this out?
Yeah, thank you all for watching. We'll be back next time with Death Parade Episode 4, Death Arcade, and stay classy.
I'm going to pretend he didn't do that.